Great taste, heart healthy.
And try new cinnamon Cheerios made with real cinnamon.
Hey, how you doing? What are you doing? Look at your Central. It's got everything you want. Matches your style. And you can cut loose in it. Oh, it's got all these fancy features, so I know you'll help you stay safe. This is what I taught you. Never settle. Hey, I've got Joe, and he's good to go. Now that's good.
Refuse to compromise. The radically redesigned all-new Nissan Sentra. Welcome back to Dateline on OWN. It had been years since Mary Jane's body had been found in the trunk of her car, and yet not a single arrest had been made. Her tumultuous marriage to Tom Zitch made him the prime suspect, but no physical evidence linked him to the crime. Life went on for Mary Jane's daughter. She continued to live with her painful memories of the night her mother disappeared. Would anyone listen to her story? Once again, Rob Stafford.
How often do you think about your mom?
Every day.
21-year-old Desiree Pena had been haunted by her mother's murder since she was 3 years old.
His hands were like around her, like around right in this area, and she was laying with her back flat on the floor.
As a little girl, Desi told everyone who would listen that her stepdad, Tom, was the killer. But nothing ever seemed to happen.
Were you frustrated?
There were times, yes. I just felt like almost like no one cared. No one cared enough about my mom.
So Desi bottled up her terrible memories, not sure who to trust. She moved to Texas when she was in high school, got married a few years later, and had a child of her own. And she learned to live with her nightmares. That's when it happened. Out of the blue, she found out the Toledo Police Department was reopening the case. And the lead detective, Steve Forrester, wanted to hear her story. She started by telling him about the early days of her mother's marriage. They were happy at first, she said, Tom and her mom.
Every once in a while, she had a Corvette, and I would take rides in it, and I would remember seeing her, drive up, and her hair would be in the wind, and they looked like they were having a good time.
But then the marriage had started to unravel. There was a lot of fighting.
He would lock her in her room for days at a time, and I just remember, laying on the floor and seeing her fingers underneath the door.
That night in November 1991 started like so many others, she told the detective.
I remember hearing a lot of fighting, heard my mom screaming, and I saw him on top of her.
Desi says she peeked through a crack in her bedroom door.
And then I saw him strangling her. I just remember seeing her face and how much she was crying.
Desi says she heard her mother choking. Tom yelled at her to close her door. Terrified, she hid under her bed. She's not sure how long she was there.
I went to the bedroom, and he was over her, and she was on the bed, and he was dressing her. And I remember this distinctly because my mom always dressed beautifully, and he was dressing her in this sweatsuit, and I remember thinking, she's not gonna like that. It's not something that she would want to wear.
What happened next is a bit of a blur. Shards of memory, searching for her mother in the backyard, hiding from Tom. But Desi says she does remember her stepdad taking her to a garage with blacked out windows. She saw her mom there, she says, for the last time, lying in the trunk of her car.
I just saw her hair mostly, and I was like, what's mommy doing? He's like, oh, she's just sleeping. And I knew that wasn't right, because people don't sleep in the trunk of a car.
Then there are Desi's memories of the time she spent living side by side with a man who she said killed her mother.
He would throw things at me. He would